So if everyone's been following what's been going on at IDW Comic Book Publishing, we had the associate publisher, managing editor, marketing manager, head of graphic design. They were all let go in May. Chris Ryall left the company as publisher for, I think, what was it, the second time, maybe? And so new guy steps up, Jud Meyers. And then just 5 days later, he goes on administration leave, right? So this was just a day ago. Apparently, he's been let go completely. It's an unexpected suspension. CBR, Comic Book Resources, they don't give any clues as to why this is happening. I'll say this. They report, in a statement, IDW Publishing announced that it has parted ways with Jud Meyers and would like to thank everyone for their discretion. It is currently unknown if the current publisher, Jerry Bennington, who was called into the role of interim publisher during Meyers' administrative leave, will continue to serve in that role. No official reason has been provided as to why IDW has terminated Meyers. IDW has been in some financial trouble for a really long time. I've been hearing lots of people reporting about it. When it comes to their finances, they're just in some trouble, and this can't fare well for them. Of course, we have a lot of people on Twitter sounding off about this. A lot of these people don't seem to know, or they're not willing to tell what's going on or what's happened. Immediately my mind goes to, what kind of harassment has he been involved in, right? Because that's you hear so much in the comic book industry recently about that kind of thing that's been going on. You see Tess Fowler coming out here and saying, congrats to IDW for finally taking out the trash. It does make me think that it has something to do with harassment, right? This person, he says, whatever happened to putting... we would like to thank everyone for their discretion in a statement about a guy accused of criminal misconduct and harassment is a bad look. And so I was like, what's going on here? It looks like only one media source is kind of speculating about what's going on. They've done a little bit of research here, and in 2003, Meyers co-founded with Carl D'Angelo his first brick-and-mortar comic shop, located in Sherman Oaks, California, the famous Earth 2 Comics. In 2009, Earth 2 formed a partnership with Jeff Johns and purchased Golden Apple Comics, turning it into another Earth 2 Comics. He later left Earth 2 and opened up a new comic book chain, Blast Off, with his partner Scott Tipton. So that's just a bunch of people starting a bunch of stuff. It then transpired that Earth 2 Comics sued Meyers and Blast Off. In the suit, Earth 2 Comics claimed that Meyers had sold product from Earth 2 to Lone Star Comics and kept the proceeds off books in his wife's name ahead of setting up Blast Off as a rival store, for which Earth 2 also claims Meyers also took the Earth 2 customer list, right? So... it's pretty underhanded if it's true. Overall, Earth 2 claimed damages of in excess of $120,000. The complaint was eventually settled, but one of the witnesses against Meyers was Chris Powell, now at Diamond Comic Distributors. And this is where it gets a little bit deeper. Meyers also named Director of Sales and Marketing at Humanoids, which I'm told became a problem for Humanoids as Chris Powell at Diamond declined to work with him. Also, Humanoids' appearances retailer events and conventions would attract the attention of aggrieved retailers over Meyers' presence. So a bunch of people don't like Meyers, right? And Jud Meyers, so... Then the final Blast Off Comics store closed last year, and I understand the chain went out of business, still owing Diamond Comic Distributors around $35,000. There were then allegations that stock had been co-signed by collectors to Blast Off to sell and then placed in storage, managed to make it to the marketplace without money or stock being returned yet to those dealers. So, look, it sounds like this isn't about harassing women or harassing or, misconduct or whatever it keeps on happening in the comic book industry. It looks like what's going on here is just some really shady business dealings that, were kind of hush-hush, and maybe IDW didn't do its homework, is kind of what it looks like when they hired Jud Meyers. If you do have some info about Jud Meyers or IDW or anything that's been going on, hey, drop something in the comments below. I'd love to hear from anybody that really has a little bit more of a heads up about this. Oh, this is interesting. There's a video that Jud Meyers made about the most important comic book to him, and it's one that number of industry figures have been sharing amongst themselves this week with an increasing levels of snark. Okay, so people are kind of being obnoxious about this video. Let's see what it has to say. Why not? Just press play here. It may take a second for it to load up. Blast Off Comics owner.
And I was reading another comic, and inside the comic there was a little 2-page price guide inside. And it had Daredevil 158, and it was listed for $20. That was like $1 million to me. $20. So many comics I could buy with that. It's crazy. I can get $20 for this comic. So I wanted to sell it. And I begged my stepmother to take me to the comic store, and she didn't like going to the comic book store because she had to drive, and I would be in there for hours, and it was not something she was interested in. But I told her, it's money, it's $20. I'm going to get $20. You see how, look. So she took me to the comic store, and I went up the stairs, and I went to the counter, and behind the counter was the manager, who was like a god to me. I mean, he was everything I wanted to be. And I went up there, and I had my comic. I put it on the counter, and I said, Daredevil 158, I saw it's worth $20, and I want to sell it. And he looked at it, said, it's a reprint. It's not worth 50 cents. I can give you 50 cents in credit. That's the best I can do. And I looked at my stepmother, and she was tapping her foot, and she was like, come on, let's go. And I said, okay. And I took the 50 cents credit, and I picked up a King Conan comic. And I'd never read any Conan comic before, but it was thick. And I went to my stepmother and lied to her. I was like, this is even better than $20. This is worth more than $20. I had to, and drove home, like what just happened. And then a few weeks later, my brother took me back to the comic store. And I went in, and I walked by the counter, and the manager was there, and behind him, hanging on the wall, was Daredevil 158, and had a price tag of $20. And I pointed to it, and I said, that's my comic book. And he said, no, kid, that's my comic book. And I sort of broke a little bit, because it's not just that this man who meant so much to me had done this to me, because there was no reprint of that comic. There is no reprint of Daredevil 158. It was that I didn't know people did that to each other. I hadn't learned that yet. So it scared me, and it hurt me. And I told my brother, I want to leave. I don't want to come back here again. I didn't want to come back to a comic book store, because it represented fear and lying and cheating and stealing and anger and hate. All of it represented that now for me. I couldn't go in there anymore. It affected me for a long time. So all these years, I own more copies of Daredevil 158 than anybody I know. I just buy it. I see it, I buy it. Beat up copy, I buy it. High grade copy, I buy it. In another country, in another language, I buy it. It's not that I'm trying to recapture that comic that I got, that got stolen from me all those years ago. It's that every time I buy it, I recapture something good, a reminder of something. So every employee that I ever have, the first day that they start, I give them a copy of Daredevil 158. I tell them the story. And then I tell them, this represents everything we are not. We do the opposite of this. There's the villain, there's the hero. We're the hero. No child will ever leave my store, ever, feeling anything but it's safe, it's good, I learned something good, and I want to come back.
Thank you for watching A Wise Way.
Okay, so I understand. Looks like, so what do I say to that? Hurt people hurt people. Apparently, the reason that a number of industry figures have been sharing that amongst themselves this week with increasing levels of snark is because apparently Jud Meyers has been involved in a lot of cheating people out of money in the industry. And IDW didn't know that when they went into business with. Like I said, if you have more info, drop it down below. But like always, standard thing for me to say at this point: support your local comic shop. You are the gateway into comics. Have a great day.